In this world in which we live, everything is interconnected, and so it is too with the Torah. For last week we ended the Torah portion speaking about Miriam and her Lashon Hara, the negative way that she spoke about her brother, Moses. And then immediately we segue this week, almost seamlessly, into the story of the spies, where Moses dispatches spies to reconnoiter the land, to travel to the land of Israel, and to report back to the people what they had found. The difference between them is smaller than the similarities. For just as Miriam could not control her own tongue, so it was the spies could not seem to control their own Yetzer Hara. They could not seem to rein in their own predisposition towards negativity. They wanted to see something that was dark, insidious, something that was going to step on them, make of them grasshoppers, and that's precisely what they saw. Our eyes see what we are predisposed to want to see. Just as Miriam wanted to see the negative side of Moses, and she saw that, and was duly punished for it, so too the spies already determined what they wanted to see, and they were duly punished for what they had witnessed as well, teaching a small but profound lesson. It's so critical to be open. It's so important to allow ourselves the luxury of knowing that we can be wrong, that the things that we think today may be proven wrong tomorrow, and that we shouldn't stand at a soapbox screaming and yelling, telling everybody how utterly convinced we are that we're correct and they're wrong, because there may be new evidence, new insights, nuances to the story that we were not privy to. How often has it happened to you that you knew that you were correct about something, and then later on found out that there was a piece of information that was withheld, and had you known this piece of information, it would have changed your mind? But sometimes the ego grows so bold, so strong, so intransigent, we don't allow ourselves the ability to say, I was wrong. I jumped to judgment. Instead of weighing everything very carefully, I decided far too quickly. The sin of the spies is the sin of humanity. Jumping to judgment instead of watching, learning, listening, and fact-finding, because that means going out of our way to try to find all the different possibilities of the story to ensure that we are not wrong in our decision. And so it is, too, that when the spies are dispatched to the land, it turns out that Moses calls all of the spies before him, but he calls particularly Joshua. And it says, and Moses called Hoshea bin Nun Yehoshua. His original name was Hoshea, and Moses changed it by adding a yud to the front part of his name, basically praying for Joshua. Moses' prayer for Joshua was that he would not be tainted by the sin of the people whom he was traveling with, that his eyesight would still remain so clear, unadulterated, that he would be able to see what was there and not be swayed into seeing what was not there. Perhaps maybe the greatest prayer of our own lives is to be impartial, to be open, to be full of hope and possibility, to realize that our decisions may be wrong, to realize too that the things that people whisper in our ears may lead us in the wrong direction. That may be just their opinion based on insubstantial facts. To be wise is to look around. To be wise is to wait in judgment. To be wise is to make sure that we've got all the facts at our disposal before we make a judgment. For once we jump into the deep end of the pool, there's only two possibilities. And if we're going to swim instead of sinking, we need to swim knowing that we are correct. Perhaps the lesson of the spies is one of the most pertinent, small, yet powerful lessons we'll ever need to learn in our life. Which is why Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers, is very clear when it says, judge all people to the meritoriousness. If you need to make a judgment, judge it for their own zechut. Judge them positively rather than negatively. Because if we're going to make a mistake, better would err on that side than to crush them, their spirit, their future, and at the same time destroy part of us, the hopeful, the good, the best intent part of self. Shabbat Shalom.